The glass tower buzzed with tension, screens flickering, voices rising as millions hung in the balance. Executives scrambled, powerless in the dark. Then came the steady scrape of a toolbox. Michael Torres, a single father in a worn uniform, stepped forward. They expected wires fixed, nothing more. But when flawless French rolled off his tongue, the room fell silent, and everything changed. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Let's begin. The corporate tower in downtown Chicago glittered against the September sky, but inside its boardroom, panic spread like fire. Screens flickered, lights dimmed, and a $200 million video call with French investors teetered on collapse. Executives shouted into phones, their polished suits and sharp words unraveling into chaos. "Where's maintenance?" barked Claudia Reeves, the CEO, her voice sharp with authority and fear. That's when Michael Torres pushed through the glass doors, toolbox in hand, his uniform smudged with grease, his eyes weary but steady. A single father, 35 years old, unnoticed by most until this moment. "I'll fix it," he said calmly, setting his tools down. Snickers rippled across the table. A janitor saving their deal? Ridiculous. But Michael climbed the ladder, hands sure and precise. Sparks hissed, breakers clicked. Slowly, the lights surged back to life. Then came the real shock. The French client's voice boomed across the call, angry, impatient. Executives froze. Not one of them spoke the language. Michael's voice cut clean through the tension, in perfect French. For a second, silence gripped the room. The executive stared at Michael as though the walls had grown a voice. His French was flawless, polished, steady, commanding. The client on the screen paused mid-rant, then leaned forward, recognizing someone finally understood him. Michael translated without missing a beat. "He says if the deal isn't confirmed today, he walks." Gasps filled the room. Brandon Shaw, the vice president, sneered. "This is absurd. We can't trust some maintenance guy with millions on the line." But Claudia's eyes narrowed on Michael. "Keep going," she ordered. Michael relayed the client's concerns, then added quietly, "He's bluffing. His company needs this deal too. If you stand firm but offer a timeline adjustment, he'll stay." Executives exchanged stunned looks. How did this janitor know? Michael didn't explain. He only said, "Sometimes you hear more by listening between the words." The French client leaned back, intrigued. "Who am I speaking with?" he asked. Michael's lips curved faintly. "Someone you can trust." The room held its breath. For the first time, the fate of the company rested not on the polished suits, but on the man who cleaned their floors. The negotiation resumed, but the atmosphere had shifted. Executives whispered, torn between awe and resentment. Brandon Shaw, his jaw tight, muttered, "He'll ruin everything." But Michael translated with uncanny precision, softening sharp phrases, catching cultural cues the executives missed. When the client demanded penalties for delays, Michael leaned closer to Claudia. "Offer safety assurances instead. His last project collapsed from electrical faults. He's hiding that fear." Claudia's eyes flickered with surprise, but she trusted his instincts. Her response, guided by Michael, made the client nod slowly. The deal teetered back toward possibility. Then, the call stuttered, screens blinking, power dipping again. A collective groan swept the room. Brandon smirked. "See? Even he can't keep the lights on." But Michael didn't panic. He tapped his watch, then sprinted out of the boardroom. Executives gasped as alarms chirped. Down in the sub-basement, Michael ripped open a panel. Inside, wires were charred black, dangerously overloaded. It wasn't just a faulty breaker. Someone had deliberately tampered with the system. Michael froze, a chill racing through him. This wasn't an accident. Someone wanted the deal to fail. Michael crouched by the smoldering wires, his pulse hammering. This wasn't wear and tear, it was sabotage. He snapped a quick photo with his phone just as footsteps echoed in the corridor. The lights above flickered back on. Too quickly. Someone else had reset the system. When Michael returned upstairs, Brandon Shaw was already at the head of the table, smirking. "All under control," he announced, brushing dust off his suit. But Michael noticed something. Black soot streaked faintly across Brandon's cuff. Claudia frowned. "How did you?" Brandon cut her off. "What matters is the call's stable again. Let's not waste time with irrelevant distractions." His eyes darted toward Michael, cold and warning. Michael bit his tongue but slid the photo onto Claudia's tablet when no one was watching. Her brows arched. Meanwhile, the French client asked for a private follow-up later that evening. The board erupted. Should they risk it? Brandon pushed to decline, clearly rattled. Michael leaned toward Claudia. "Take it. But not here." The CEO studied him. For the first time, her authority cracked with uncertainty. She gave a sharp nod. Michael had just changed the company's course again, though he had no idea how dangerous that choice would become. By evening, the skyline glowed amber, but tension inside the tower burned hotter than the sunset. Claudia gathered a small group for the follow-up call, Michael included. Brandon objected loudly. "He's maintenance, not management." But Claudia silenced him. "He's the only one our client trusts." The call began. The French executive leaned in, speaking quickly. Michael's jaw tightened. The client wasn't just discussing deadlines, he hinted that a competitor had promised inside access to undercut their deal. Michael translated carefully, leaving out one damning word until he was sure. Then he added quietly in English, "He said someone on this team is feeding him information." The boardroom froze. All eyes swung toward Brandon, whose pen slipped from his fingers. His face stayed calm, but sweat dotted his temple. Suddenly, Michael's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number: "Stop talking, or your son's scholarship disappears." His stomach dropped. Leo. His 10-year-old's dream of getting into an art academy, gone with a single threat. Michael's hand trembled under the table. He could protect the deal. He could protect his son. But maybe not both. Michael's thumb hovered over the phone, his chest tightening. The number was blocked, but the message was clear: someone inside the building was targeting him. "Translate," Claudia urged, snapping him back. The French client pressed for confirmation on the contract, his patience running thin. Michael steadied his voice. "He wants proof your company values integrity over profit," he said deliberately, locking eyes with Brandon. The VP bristled. "That's not what he said," he barked. Claudia's gaze sharpened. "And you speak French now?" Brandon's face flushed, but he forced a grin. "I've studied." Michael didn't argue. Instead, he translated a follow-up with precision, adding a subtle suggestion: he proposes an independent auditor, chosen by both sides. Gasps rippled. It was bold, risky even. But the French client smiled. "Enfin," he said. Finally. As the call ended with cautious optimism, Claudia leaned close to Michael. "Why suggest that?" Michael's eyes flicked toward Brandon. "Because liars hate being watched." At that moment, his phone buzzed again, last warning. "Walk away, or Leo pays the price." Michael's blood ran cold. Someone knew his son's name. The next morning, Michael dropped Leo off at school, forcing a smile. "Be brave, kiddo. I'll be back by 3. But as Leo disappeared into the building, Michael noticed a black SUV idling across the street. Its tinted windows never rolled down. At the tower, Claudia called him into her office. "That auditor idea, brilliant. But it's rattled the board." Brandon wants you off the project. Michael tried to respond, but his phone buzzed again, a photo of Leo, taken that morning outside the school gates. His stomach flipped. The message followed, one more word in French, and you'll never see him again. Michael gripped the desk, trying to mask the tremor in his hands. Claudia's sharp eyes caught it. What's going on? Before he could answer, Brandon burst in, waving a stack of papers. Our client just demanded early proof of compliance. If we miss this, it's over. Michael's pulse raced. He could expose Brandon as the leak, but the price might be his son. For the first time, the man who fixed lights and wires faced a choice he couldn't repair with tools. Michael's mind raced as Brandon slammed documents on the table, theatrically blaming maintenance errors for delays. Claudia frowned but said nothing, for now. Michael excused himself, heading to the sub-basement under the pretense of checking circuits. There, he quietly slipped his phone into the building's Wi-Fi logs. Years of odd jobs taught him tricks most execs never imagined, like tracing a blocked number through digital breadcrumbs. The result froze him. The threats had come from inside the tower. Worse, from a device registered to the executive floor. Back upstairs, Brandon was gone. Claudia cornered Michael. You're hiding something. I can see it. Tell me, or you're out. Michael's reply caught her off guard. Someone here is sabotaging the deal, and threatening my son to keep me quiet. Her face hardened. Your son. Before Michael could answer, his phone buzzed again, this time a video. Leo, sitting on the school steps, looking confused as a shadow loomed over him. A distorted voice, clocks ticking, Torres. Claudia saw the screen. For the first time, the iron-willed CEO looked shaken. Whoever's behind this, they're playing for more than money. Claudia locked her office door, her voice low. If someone inside is threatening a child, this isn't just corporate sabotage, it's criminal. Michael's jaw tightened. Then why does it feel like Brandon's the only one holding the strings? Before she could answer, the French client called again, demanding final signatures that night. Millions were at stake. Brandon insisted he'd handle it alone, smirking as he swept the documents into his briefcase. Michael's phone buzzed once more, meet in the parking garage. Alone. No police. Attached was a blurry shot of Leo's backpack. Panic clawed at him, but then he noticed something. In the photo's reflection, faint and small, was the chrome bumper of a car he recognized, Brandon's silver sedan. Michael's blood ran cold. Brandon wasn't just sabotaging the deal, he was orchestrating the threats himself. He turned to Claudia, voice steady but fierce. If I walk into that garage, Leo's bait. If we do nothing, your deal dies. So tell me, do you trust me enough to fight this together? Claudia hesitated, torn between her empire and a father's desperate plea. The parking garage reeked of oil and silence. Michael stepped into the dim light, his toolbox in hand, not for fixing wires this time, but as a shield. Brandon emerged from the shadows, Leo's backpack dangling from his fist. You should have stayed in your lane, Torres, he sneered. Now you'll lose the deal, and your son. Michael's heart pounded, but his voice stayed calm. Funny. That photo you sent. Reflections tell stories. Like the one of your car in the frame. Brandon's smirk faltered. From the stairwell, Claudia appeared, flanked by security and 2 board members. She held up Michael's photo evidence. Game's over, Brandon. You didn't just sabotage a contract. You targeted a child. Brandon lunged, but Michael moved first, gripping his wrist with the same unshakable strength that once rewired live circuits. The briefcase hit the ground, papers scattering like ash. Security closed in. Leo's voice echoed from behind a car. Dad? Michael turned, his boy ran into his arms, trembling but safe. Relief flooded him. By dawn, Brandon was in custody, the French deal saved, and Claudia announced something that stunned the entire tower: from today, Michael Torres isn't just maintenance. He's our new liaison, for integrity and operations. Michael only smiled faintly, holding Leo's hand. I'll do it, on one condition. No late nights. My son comes first. For once, the boardroom applauded not wealth, but courage. And as Michael left the tower, head high, the September sun felt like a promise: tomorrow would finally belong to him. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more stories that stay with you.